Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
Welcome, everyone. We got a really great guest today. We had some cool chats actually earlier before the podcast when he was doing some really good work. So welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on the Demolition Success Secret Show.
Thank you. Appreciate you reaching out to me for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we could just start with the job that you're on right now. That was some pretty cool stuff you're doing.
It's a small commercial building. Little strip mall plaza type place, about 100,000 square foot. Nobody told me before I got there though that there was a bank previously, so there's a vault.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the foundations are twice as thick and the floors are twice as thick and everything's a nightmare.
How often do nightmares show up on jobs? Is that like 25% of the time, 10% of the time?
Usually the last 3 days of every job.
Okay. Got it.
That's when you discover everything went wrong.
Man. Okay.
Unless you know how the building was built in the first place, it's your guesswork the whole way through the job. And,
right.
I always seem to find the little extras.
Got it. What are some of the craziest jobs you've ever done? I know there's probably a whole bunch, but maybe, 2 or 3 you care to share?
Yeah, there was one up in Buffalo on the Outer Harbor. It was the old Freezer Queen Foods. It's a six-story, basically a freezer, concrete freezer. All concrete, 15 feet off the water, 75 foot high, 1,000 foot long. The way we took that out was I took a universal processor and I cut the concrete legs in the basement and let 6 stories of concrete fall 30 feet in front of me.
Oof.
I'll make sure you can actually find that video if you YouTube it. Freezer Queen Demolition.
Crazy. Okay.
And
so that one sticks out.
I was real proud of that one. That was a fun job because I wasn't having to do the cleanup and load out. I would come in for 3 days a week and just make a complete disaster of the place. I had 3 other operators behind me that were doing the cleanup. Then the next 3 days, I would go to a brewery in Rochester, New York, where I'd be cutting down 60-foot tall metal tanks for 3 days and just make a complete disaster. And had 2 operators behind me there to clean up.
Wild.
And I did that for 4 months.
Oof. When you said the brewery at first, I was like, oh, you went to go have a drink.
Well, that was nice because they did give us a free case a week.
Oh, nice. That's amazing.
All contractors got a free case a week.
That's awesome. Hopefully that wasn't the only pay, right?
Well, no, I have a reputation in demolition to where my pay equals my reputation.
Right.
I do really well. Struggling a little now that I'm trying to go out on my own. I've been working as a jobber, but my biggest problem I'm having is finding customers.
Right. Okay.
If I can get my foot in the door, I can put a bid together like you wouldn't believe. I can run the job sites start to finish, set up all the vendors, all the truck. I do all of it. I can't seem to figure out customer acquisition.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So that's, of course, we have the podcast, but that's kind of what my business is. So we could talk about all that later. But more or less the whole thing there is like, what type of jobs do you love to do? Does it matter, certain price points? Is it homes, commercial, industrial? Like, what's your
I'm,
sweet spot?
I mean, I can do residential. Usually the only time someone wants me to do residential, it's either a high risk or a high rush.
Right.
Did one a few weeks ago in Columbus, Ohio. Guy called me in to help out. 2.5 story house that was the foundation was 30 inches away from the 2.5 story house next door.
Oh, wow. Okay. Got it.
And, high risk.
Mm,
I was on that job for 2.5 days to get it all done.
okay.
Residential, usually it's a day and a half, maybe a full 2 days for residential. But
Mm,
I seem to, again, one that goes sideways quick, or you
mm,
can slow down to prevent it.
right.
Uh, Commercial, I wouldn't mind getting into industrial. Problem is, I don't have the equipment or the manpower.
Mm,
It A lot of the companies on the big industrial jobs now, they're buying the jobs, they're not bidding the job.
right. For the
So,
scrap and everything on the back end.
yeah. Um,
Mm,
Worked for one company about 2 years ago. Power plant up on Lake Ontario in the dead of winter. Yeah, that sucked. The view out of my window was Toronto. Um, but that job, they paid 2.7, I think, for the job.
okay.
So, and that's where it's getting to, where it used to be you could bid zero.
Mm,
Now you got to buy the jobs. Power plants, metal processing facilities, steel mills. Nobody's getting paid to do those jobs now, except for the property owners.
interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've heard of many a times people paying for jobs. I didn't know it was so common. I had no idea.
Pretty much any power plant, it's going to be a bought job.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Well, yeah, let's kind of understand, what got you to be on your own and everything. How did you transition? A lot of people who are listening, they're either owners, they're team members, etc., and they've always thought about it. But I know insurance can be challenging, the credit and getting money together, the equipment. How did you go from working with others and being kind of amongst others to moving and kind of transitioning onto your own?
Well, about 5 years ago, I was working for a very large industrial demo company. I was working for Total,
Hmm.
and we had just we were just about to wrap a job down in Virginia, and they told me my next site was going to be 2.5 years down in Florida. I live just outside of Buffalo.
Hmm.
I have a 10-year-old daughter who plays hockey. I have a wife whose job has her in the office every day. And I actually quit demolition altogether at that point because
Wow.
I didn't want to travel that like that.
Sure.
Um, it I hate being away from my family. And
Hmm.
I've been doing it about 20 years at that point, just working for others. And that was just the travel was getting more and more and more, to where I was going to be lucky if I had one weekend a month home for a couple years.
Mm.
And you can't keep a family like that.
No.
So I gave it all up and I started a motorcycle shop.
Whoa.
And and then COVID hit. Yeah, look at me, big surprise. I'm a biker. Um, but then COVID hit in my third year of that business and I couldn't survive. So I went back into demo. Um, Chasing work here and there. And I've hooked up with a couple of small guys who've needed me for jobber work. So I kind of went on to freelancing at that point. I'm working their bid, their insurance. I'm getting paid.
Right.
To where now I'm moving more of starting to chase the work myself. And it's a chase.
Mm,
Um, you know, and I've been lucky. I make real good money doing what I do. And I'm smart with my money. I've been in the trades for 30 years, so I know there's lean times where you don't get a paycheck. So I made sure I had enough money. So now it's, I'm buying insurance policies per job
got
instead of a
it.
blanket
Interesting.
policy. Costs a little more for the insurance. It's about 20% more.
Right.
But if I only have to write a $5,000 check for the job, and then if I don't get another job for 4 months, I'm not having to cover that monthly premium with no work.
Got it. That's
So,
fascinating. How do you do that, or who does that? What company insures
um,
per job?
well, I'm lucky that I have a family member in the insurance industry.
Okay, cool.
So he directed me to somebody in my area that could help find that.
Cool. I've
Um,
never heard of that. That's genius.
yeah. You can do the same thing with bonding. If you
Okay.
need a bond, you can buy a bond per instead of having preset bonding capacity.
Hmm.
There's a couple of surety companies out there that'll let you go up to 225,000 for performance bond
Okay.
without having to go through the full bonding process.
Very cool.
Um,
Never heard that on the
yeah.
podcast before, either of those two things. That's super cool.
Well, I mean, you got to chase it. When
Mm,
I'm not putting a bid together for myself or consulting with someone else, helping them put a bid together, and I'm not on a job site, I research, research, research.
mm,
Find every possible angle to save a buck here, save a buck there.
right.
Um, before a job starts, this job I'm on now, I've been here for 2 weeks, just about wrapping it up. I was supposed to wrap it today, but had a couple of glitches on the job, so it'll be Monday when I go back in and wrap up. Um, I was there a week before the job started,
Okay.
going around local trucking companies, local scrap companies, um, even just going out to talk to the hotels directly to try and get a better rate.
Mm,
Just everywhere I can save. If I save $5 a night on a hotel and I'm out 200 days a year,
right.
there's 10 grand.
Mm, adds up.
Yeah. So that's the big thing, just research. And then when I've got all of it covered, look for another way to save money somewhere.
Right. And I guess it's kind of a funny, like, sick paradigm of save money, make money. It's
Well,
tricky how that works.
and the thing is, the money isn't made in the contract. It's made in how you spend your money. That's where the
Yes.
profit comes from. Um,
Mm,
I could have on this job, there was enough money. I could have went out and bought a machine and had it trucked down, but I I rented a machine for a month. That's
right.
9 grand instead of dropping 90 on a machine.
Oof. Sure.
So, and 90 buys you a smaller beat up used machine. The
Mm,
equipment cost, the one I have right now that I'm renting, it's got 500 hours on it. If I was to have bought it new, it's 230,000.
jeez.
Yeah, the equipment cost will kill you. Before the job started, I called every rental company and I actually called a couple of concrete crushers to see if they had a machine they could rent me since I'd be running them concrete.
Cool. Okay.
Um, just again, chasing the funny angles. Where's the money to be saved? Um,
Mm,
and the other part of making money, the difference in, having just a survivable career and actually making real money, is understanding recovery. The scrap metals on this job. Just a little
Right.
commercial building. People wouldn't think about it so much. I found a guy who actually, I give him credit, he's a gambler. He stepped in when the building was only half down, and we talked, and he offered me 10 grand, and he covered the trucking for
Cool.
all of my scrap. I figure, and I didn't have to separate it. I didn't have to prepare anything. He dropped 60-yard dumpsters. I stuffed them full of metal.
Sweet.
Looking at what I put in, there was probably, it would have been about a 17,000, but I would have had 3 more days of me and a laborer separating it, the fuel, then the trucking, so in the end, he'll probably make about 3 grand.
Okay.
I probably lost about 3, but the convenience factor.
Right. Yeah, your time is valuable.
Right.
Your headache is valuable.
$110 a night for the hotel. The machine, the fuel, and just my hours. Those extra days on the scrap part of it would have killed me. This guy made the deal, and I
Right.
couldn't be happier. And he's actually been really helpful. He's got a partner who owned a trucking company, so they're doing all my hauling. I made sure to hire them in return. Building relationships with people.
That's awesome. Yeah, where would you say most of your deals come from these days? Just word of mouth, the network that you've built over the years?
Right now, I'm mostly subbing.
Okay, got it.
Just a lot of guys I've worked for know I'm in business for myself now. So they might get something comes across their desk that they either don't want or don't have time for. They'll refer me. And then a lot of networking, a lot of just chasing it. And again, it's where I struggle, so it's hard to explain because I'm not that good at it. I'll tell you what, I'd love to bring on a full 50-50 partner who handled the clean side of the business. I'll handle the dirty side.
Interesting. Like an office type,
Yep.
Interesting.
Guy I work with every now and then out of Columbus. Not gonna mention his name because it won't help my reputation none. But this guy can find jobs and he can sell jobs. It's amazing. But when I help him out on these jobs, he knows he's not allowed to come across my fence.
Okay, interesting.
I don't want him on my site at all because he doesn't belong there. He doesn't have the knowledge. He doesn't have the skill. But God, can he find work?
What is his secret sauce there? He's just on the bid boards, or
I'm not sure if he's chasing bid boards, if he's just hammering it, or if he's been around a little bit. He's pissed a lot of people off, but the guy's great at making money. He's not great at managing it.
Isn't that funny? That's usually how it works.
Yeah,
like the ones who are raking it in, put it out the other end too.
Yeah, he's got a nice trail of debt behind him.
Interesting.
And I'll still work for him because I'm one of the few guys he hasn't screwed over on money.
Right.
As
Okay.
a matter of fact, someone who recommended me to you, he's still owed money by this guy. So,
Man.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. A lot of guys are. But and that's the risk in this, is you got to make sure that your deposit covers up until your first draw check.
Right.
And then your draw check covers, never get behind. And then your final check is your profit.
Got it. Okay. And that is kind of for any job you take. Is there a certain deposit that you require of a percentage, or a
It
dollar
depends on
figure?
the jobs. If I do a house, the day my machine gets there, I want it all because I'm going
Oh,
to be
okay.
gone in 2 days. So I'll
Got
get the
it.
machine delivered, but before I turn the key on, pay up
Got it. Interesting. How do
because
people
it's a 2-day job. I'm not going to wait
right.
till I'm done or do a 50-50 where I get a check today, a check tomorrow.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's inconvenient. Um,
Mm,
but now like on a $100,000 job, say, or 120,000, I need a 30,000 deposit.
okay. Got it.
That covers the machine, that covers the trucking.
Okay. And then your milestones on draws is it weekly, monthly? It could vary, I'm sure.
I like to do it with benchmarks. So
Got
like
it.
say this building I'm on right now, first draw was when the structure was down, completely
Okay.
demoed, piled, and separated. Second draw was when all the C&D was off site, and now its final payment will be when the concrete's off site.
Got it. Okay.
Um, it just, I know some guys who do it by how many yards of material you ship out. They want their draws that way. Others have it on a time schedule. I like to have it set up like this. So if something does delay a job, if we get weather or something, I'm not asking for a draw before I'm ready for it.
Mm,
It makes the customer feel better. And it's visible things that the customer can see because most customers do not understand demolition.
yeah, no
If they
idea.
do,
General public
they
either.
hire a guy and they take care of it. But
Right.
they don't understand demolition, but they do understand, oh, look, the building's completely down and there's 2 piles.
Mm,
Time to pay. Oh, it's a clean slab now. Time to pay.
hmm.
It's easier to communicate with property owners.
Sure. That makes sense.
Um, and it's just it's something I picked up on from just watching other companies. You can always tell when you're working for the bigger companies when it's getting close to a draw check because they start getting cheap. You start having trouble with fuel delivery, things like that. And then the draw check comes, and suddenly every machine is fueled up again. You know,
Mm,
overtime's back. You know, if you balance it out where you don't have to worry about that. I'm real good at scheduling. I can look at the building and say 2.5 days to get it down, a day and a half to get it separated. Well, now I know I'm going to be running a machine for 10 hours a day during that, 4.5 gallons of diesel an hour. So, the math on what I need to get to that point is pretty easy to figure out
right.
if you can schedule. I know a lot of guys who just blow the schedule out of the water,
Mm,
unrealistically high, or they're trying to do a large building with a mini. So now they're way beyond deadlines. Um, having the right equipment to get it to that point, get you in and out faster.
sure. Yeah, that's valid. I think we recently had someone on the show who was in equipment, and his whole biggest thing was just like, you got to know what you need to get stuff done. And if you don't, call me because I will help you understand. It's not just, oh, I was told I need this, or we think he's like, no, come to me and I can help you figure it out just by asking you questions. He, as the equipment guy, is not going to tell you you need the most expensive thing. He said many times I can get you something cheaper and you'll thank me and you'll want to stick with me long term because I'm willing to invest the time with you to help get you what you really need.
And yeah, if you're not 100% sure as an owner on what you need for equipment, talk to your operator. Now, as an operator, first, I'll tell you, I always want bigger.
Sure.
I don't care if I'm wrecking a shed or a high rise. I want a Komatsu 1250 on site.
Right.
It's just I want bigger.
Mm.
Now that I'm writing the checks, I've learned, I'm not going to go smaller than I need, but I know because of having that 20 years in the seat, I know what
Mm.
size machine will do the job. The job I'm on right now, I've got that 220 JCB, which, by the way, for anyone watching, don't sleep on JCB. These things are great. I've never run one before this job. The best cab layout I've ever had. I'm so productive because I'm comfortable.
Got
But
it.
yeah, I got this 220 JCB. Taking down the building, I didn't need something that big. I could have probably went down 10,000 pounds in machine.
Okay.
But pulling footers and having the bank vault, I needed a bigger machine.
Mm.
Now, I would have loved a 400. I can't afford that on this job. I took the biggest machine I can afford to budget into the job and still hit that profit margin you want.
Right. That's fair. Now, not necessarily for you, but in general, what do you deem as a healthy profit margin in the business? I know it depends on the company size. We don't need to know your business, but
Right.
what do most people aim for? What do you think is a good target?
You know what? It actually depends. If you're doing a smaller commercial job like what I'm doing here, you
Hmm.
want to be 30 to 35%. You're
Okay.
doing a house, 50. If you're doing
Mm.
a lot of residentials, you want to be in that 50% range because you're one of your costs that aren't in the bid that'll kill you is moving your equipment around.
Sure.
So that will kill you. So you want that 50% on residential. If I was to do something crazy like a million square foot shopping mall, I could do that in the 22% range.
Okay.
Um, the biggest thing I'll say is never, ever, ever let yourself get below 20% average. Your bonding companies, they want to see you pulling a 20% or better.
Got it.
If you are below that, you're not going to get your next bond. Private
Interesting.
work's not that big of a deal, but once you start looking municipal, if you're trying to do housing for a city, that
Mm.
bond is important.
Yeah. Let the other guys take the little profits because they're not going to last. They're not going to, unfortunately, they don't have legs. They're the ones who make the industry such a headache for everyone else. It's like,
And
these guys are going to get bankrupt quick.
I see it a lot, and people wonder how can they do that job that cheap. Well, a lot of times you've got a guy who's got no job going right now,
Mm.
got a ton of iron sitting on his yard, not being productive. He's got guys laid off that he's going to risk losing. He'll throw a job away at 5%
Right.
every now and then, just if he's in that special little gap you need, between your jobs. He'll throw a cheap one away to keep the guys going. Uh,
Mm.
and these are guys with older equipment. They've been in the business a lot of years. They don't have payments hanging over their heads, so they can throw the work away for a little less. Uh, the theory, it kills me that guys still believe it. The theory of, well, I already own the machine.
Mm.
So where I have to pay 10 grand a month for mine, they don't.
Sure. Got it.
They cut that off and then they believe that you know, they're saving money. If I own the machine, I still know that it costs me $600 a day and that's going into my bid.
Mm.
That way I can replace it when I wear it out.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing you'll see a
Uh,
lot of in this industry is dummies. I'll call them, and they're not dummies. They're dirt work guys. They're
Got it.
good. They're good at dirt work. I
Yeah,
can
like
take a grade man.
dating and stuff.
Yeah, I can take a grade man and teach him how to wreck, but I'm going to destroy your grade man. He'll never lay a good grade again.
Mm,
Never take a wrecker and teach him how to lay a fine grade. We're just not used to working below our tracks. Everything we do is above our cap.
got it. Makes sense.
So the muscle memory, the body positioning, all of that stuff that you need to, it's not there. But you'll see landscapers start bidding on like garages and that. And they'll start landing them, making some money, and they'll try and step up.
Got it.
And those guys, because they're trying to step up, they throw the work away thinking they're getting their name out.
Mm,
And they screw the rest of us who are trying to make a living just doing this.
right. Yeah, and they hurt the name too. Like, so not only are they messing with the money of everyone else, but they're making you guys look bad when they mess up.
Oh yeah.
Then you
I've
guys have to
had
come in and save the day.
I've had that on one other job, just outside of Wooster, Ohio. Demo company. It was a gut out, an old Big Lots. It was being converted to a Planet Fitness, so it was a complete gut out. The demo company that was in there made a lot of promises. They were hiring their people, paying them per day, hiring them off of Craigslist.
Oh,
Um, and they got way behind. So
sure.
the property owner pulled the ceiling work out and sold that to me and another guy. And I went in there and they were trying to do one little section of ceiling when I first got there, and they had 3 guys on a man lift trying to cut down a hard, almost like a concrete like plaster ceiling that was on a suspended grid. They got
Okay.
3 guys on man lifts trying to cut it down and push it out of the way, and they got 15,000 square feet of this to do.
That's not a good move.
Yeah, so I went, rented a machine, came in, and I pulled that whole ceiling down in 3 days.
Mm,
Just because I knew what machine to have. I wasn't using dummies to do the work. It was professionals.
right.
Had a couple of laborers. We got a skid steer in there to push everything out. It wasn't easy to get the excavator in because we couldn't take the door frames out. So I had to take the roof off and crouch way down deep to get through the doorway.
Hmm.
But it's what was needed to be done. It was the only way that job could have been done on time. And I had plumbers and carpenters in the building working in a different section as quick as I cleared it. They were starting to do their work. It was
Cool.
so far behind. Now that company will never get another job with the developer
Right. Yeah, they
because they
burned the
screwed
bridge.
up so bad. They bid real low, screwed it up, didn't have the money, tried to use the wrong equipment, the wrong manpower, and just didn't have the experience.
Mm,
And those guys we deal with all the time.
right.
There's always someone thinking they can get away with something in demo.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess they compared to building, they think, tearing down, they can cut more corners, as building, different rules, different people keep an eye on you, that kind of thing. But there's something about tearing stuff down that people think they can just cut corners left and right.
Yeah, they think they can just come in and smash and run, and
Mm,
they can't. You really can't. What we do is so dangerous.
right.
So dangerous. If you got inexperienced people, someone's going to die.
Mm,
Um, and that's the thing. A lot of my friends who do dirt work, they say, "Oh, I'd love to get in a demo. It looks fun." I come home more exhausted every night now than when I was 18 years old working as a roofer's assistant carrying shingles up to a rooftop.
wow. Interesting.
And I just sit in a machine now.
Sure.
But I'm more exhausted because of the stress.
Okay.
I grab the beam in the wrong spot and I pull a half inch the wrong way, I just killed 6 people.
Mm,
Myself, maybe my crew, maybe just the crew, but someone's gonna die if I do it wrong. And that's my safety record is one of the most important things to me because I don't want anyone dying. I don't want anyone getting hurt. I don't
right.
care if I'm a paid employee on a job or if it's my job. It's my machine when I'm in it, and I'm
Hmm.
responsible for everyone around me.
Yeah, and we've heard some real nightmares. It's pretty common, actually. I got involved with demolition about 2019, and I didn't, I didn't know the severity. Just, normal person, general population, you don't think it through until later down the road where you go, oh man, like they lost someone on that job, or elevator shaft, roof, caved in, like just
Oh, yeah.
common stuff.
A couple years ago, there was some guys on a power plant. I want to say the Toledo area, but I'm not 100% sure. They were
Hmm.
set cutting underneath the boiler so they could pull the boiler over. Had the cables already hung. They were underneath, set cutting the beams. This is stuff we do in industrial demo every day. It's
Hmm.
how you get big buildings to lay on their sides.
Mm,
You cut them beams in a certain way, you hook the cables, you give it a pull, and it falls over.
right.
Well, I guess somebody heard a creak out of the steel. They had 3 or 4 beams left to cut. They heard something creak, and then 2 guys were dead.
Wow.
Dropped the double boiler right on top of them.
Yeah, that was what my concern was, doing that. Okay.
And like I
Man.
said, we do it every single day. I started
Mm,
in demo as a burner. I was the guy cutting the beams. I
right.
was working high burning. I'm 150 foot in the air, sometimes walking the steel and cutting it. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I don't do that anymore. Nope, I'm done with those days. But
How long did you do that for?
about 5 years, I was a high burner.
Man, oh my God.
I was burning on the ground. They for like 3 days, and then they said, "Well, you're good at that. Put me in a lift." And next thing I'm on a aluminum uh, rolling mill, walking the steel beams up on the roof,
Crazy.
cutting them as I'm dropping them.
Mm.
Walk it, cut it, walk back across it, drop, cut it. Um, and I knew that every step I took, I could die any second, but
Mm.
it's it's how it's done. It's the only way to do it.
Sure.
Uh, the only other way to do it would be to go up high in the lifts and take it piece by piece by piece with a crane, and you are going to run your cost up so high, it's not even reasonable.
Yeah, couldn't pull it off.
No.
Mm.
But yeah, like I said, people die. There used to be a website, Demolition Forums. I don't even know if it's still around or not, but they used to have a weekly fatality post. It would
Wow.
it would give the count. Some weeks it was 1, some
Jeez.
weeks it was 5, but somewhere in the US today, somebody probably died.
That's wild.
Hit by a machine, building dropped, a fall, something.
Mm.
Probably 1 a week average.
Right.
So,
That's wild. How often do you think that's avoidable? Would you say many of the times? Or, I mean, it's nature of the business, it is what it is. It's
it's
not.
hard. I mean, they're all avoidable in hindsight.
Sure.
Every accident, when you look back at it, you can say, I should have done this.
Right.
And it's always avoidable. Certain things, though, Like when they were set cutting that building, those two guys that got crushed. I don't know how avoidable it was.
Mm,
You know, it had to be cut in order to pull it over. Now, did they make a cut slightly wrong, or, you know, not quite have the math right for the weight? Probably.
right.
So that could have landed on the engineer. That could have landed on the burners themselves. They could have been in there thinking they were doing it right, thinking that their idea was going to work a little better.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, we are a testosterone charged industry. There's no doubt about it. Every guy is the best at what he does. Just ask them.
Right.
You know,
It's like Wall
so
Street, but a little bit different. Like Wall
it
Street's
is.
like whoever makes the most money and blah blah blah, and you guys are like whoever gets the most stuff knocked down safely.
Yeah. But because of that, guys will get rushing. They'll get ahead of themselves, trying to prove it to the next guy up, prove it as superintendent they're worthy of that next step up.
Sure.
And that's when accidents happen. And like I said, people die.
Yeah, we've
Uh,
heard that many times. When you're cocky or confident or
what I do for a living.
mm, crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, I know we got just another few minutes real quick before we wrap up. Where do you see the business going? And, you know, it sounds like your biggest thing is, like you said, just acquiring more deals, like you're going to buy all the deals out, but getting more
Yeah.
customers, more clients, the acquisition of that.
Yeah.
Where do you
Customer
see the business going? Where would you like it to go?
I mean, I'd like to. I'm not. I'm not trying to be greedy. I mean, don't get me wrong. If, you know, I could land me a couple of $1 million deals, that would be awesome. But in reality, if I could start getting sales in the say 2 to 5 range a year,
Okay.
you know, staying in the 20% line, I I would love that. That'd be a good
Mm,
solid living. You know, it would justify the time and the money, and it's not even that unrealistic.
no, I know a lot of guys doing that, and even bigger than that, and
Yeah,
they're normal guys. They don't even
yeah,
have as much experience as you.
yeah. 2 to 5 is not a hard sales. If you're over 20%, it's, you know, you're doing okay.
Right.
If you're under 20%, please stop
Mm,
killing us all.
yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to. Nothing crazy, you know. Get a few employees full time. You know, maybe a couple of machines and a truck.
Cool. Okay.
You
And
know,
it's just that customer acquisition that's holding you back because you know what the heck to do. This isn't your first rodeo. It's just,
no, no,
huh.
I can walk a
Okay.
job site and put a bid together quicker than most estimators can using their software, and we're
Mm,
usually in a couple percentage points of each other.
right.
You know, it's just getting to that point.
Got it.
Everything from the point of start putting the bid together on down, I've got.
Okay. Yep. You just need the phone to ring, people to email you, that kind of thing. And then
Yep.
you'll build your network. The more you do more jobs.
Well, and that's the thing is it's really hard in demo to build a network because repeat customers are a rarity.
Yeah.
You know, once we
True.
tear it down, they don't need us anymore.
Right. Yep. Mm, that is fair. And if they do, it's usually not tomorrow. It's
No,
usually a whiles away when it is
I
repeat.
mean you can get lucky and find those investment guys who are going to the auctions and buying, you know, 30 or 40 properties at a time that have to come down. But once you
Right.
land those guys, they're smart with their money too. You're not going to be just their, hey, I need this house torn down guy. They're going to
Mm,
want a bid and they're going to want bids from 10 other guys, and it's still going to be competitive.
right. Hmm. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So I see the future. How can people get in touch with you? Who's ideal to reach out to you and what's the best way to get out to you?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is usually either phone or email. Um,
Okay.
for phone, it's okay if I throw it all out there for you right now.
Yeah, please, please.
Cool.
This is all for you.
All right, when I'm done, edit in, make sure it scrolls. Um, but yeah, the company, it's Mad Builder Designs. If you look it up on Facebook, you'll see a bunch of motorcycles. It's my old bike shop. I still kept the business
Mm,
alive, so I'm converting it. Um, but the email, it's Hugh the Wrecker. Duh is DUH at live.com. Phone
okay.
number 716-563-1710.
Okay. Beautiful. And
Um,
what areas of the country? I know you're not trying to go to Florida where I live.
no,
um, what areas around
well,
your home?
it depends on the job. I'll be honest. I did bid
$10 billion.
the Miami
No.
Zoo. I did bid the Miami Zoo monorail.
Oh, cool.
I, I
Awesome.
did I did bid that. I missed that by about 3% on the bid.
Oh, okay.
So I mean that made me feel good. I only missed it by 3%, and I had travel costs.
Right. Okay.
So, but I'm like I said, it depends on the job. Good enough job, good enough margin. I'm going to Alaska.
Okay. Got it.
But I'd like to be in the Northeast. I like to be home on the weekends,
Right.
especially in the wintertime. My daughter plays hockey, so I want to be at her games.
Mm, that's fair.
So, Northeast, but again, the job spreads me further. If I can
Yep.
find a big job in Buffalo, I'm 100% down for that. I'm not going to be going to, Toledo, Ohio to do a single house.
Right. That makes sense.
But you give me a 2.5, 3 week long commercial build, yeah, I'll look at it.
Right. That's fair. Yeah. Well, sweet. Okay. You and I are going to stay on the line.
All right.
But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Seriously, I think you gave a lot of really, honestly, super cool insights that we've never gotten before, like the insurance per deal, the bonding per deal. Like I've never, ever, ever had that being shared on the podcast yet. A lot of people talk safety. You talk the reality of when you necessarily aren't doing things the safest.
Yeah.
What those repercussions are. So
I've
thank you,
had
man.
one
Really, really glad to have you on.
high safety record in 20 years in demo, 30 years in the trades. I've had no fatalities, no amputations on any site I've been on. And I mean, this is going
Amazing.
back to when I was just a laborer, so that was just luck at that point. But no
Right.
fatalities, no career-ending injuries. The worst injury I've had, I actually was last summer. I had about 7 tons of brick come through my excavator window, and
Whoa.
that was my fault, and I was the only injury, and I still only
Okay.
missed a month of work. But
Got it.
that's my only injury on a job site.
Wild. And I'm sure that was like a reawakening and a reminder of like, hey.
That was one where afterwards, what did I do wrong? Oh my God, I did this, this, and this wrong.
Right. I will never do those things again, kind of like checking off the box.
Well, yeah, and I'll be honest, I was gun shy when I got back in the machine a couple months later.
Sure.
I was real hesitant the first month because
Mm,
situations where if I was 8 inches further back, I would have been a joke at the lunch table. If I would have
right.
been 8 inches further forward, I would have been dead.
Yeah. That's
You know, I
crazy.
I got lucky and just crushed my knee.
Mm, just some physical therapy and some medicine
Not
and stuff.
even, not even crush injuries. I can't do anything for it except time and medication. I don't
Mm,
take I don't take pain pills, so time and
right.
suffer.
Man, oh man. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being on the podcast. You and I will stay on the line for the next few minutes, and we are signing off, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Call me for work.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.